It's the middle of the 2012 field season. We are here towards the center of James Fort, where we are uncovering a cellar to yet another James Fort period building. The first few weeks of the season, back in April, we excavated this area to find the limits to the cellar, or the edges to the cellar. And it turns out we've got one large cellar here shaped like an L. It's 25 feet long. At its widest, it's about 14 feet wide. So pretty substantial archaeological feature here. What we're doing now, it's the month of July, and we've spent, I think, the last 6 or 7 weeks now excavating into the feature. We're bisecting it, or digging the eastern half right now, and what that allows us to have is a running profile of the different soil layers or soil strata that we have gone through, and you can see that profile by looking at the vertical wall of the side of the cellar we have yet to excavate. Now all of this soil is taken down to the water screens to be processed or screened through an 1/8" mesh, but a lot of it we're actually pushing through a window mesh. In that window mesh we're catching very small Venetian glass trade beads, little blue beads made in Venice, as well as a lot of animal bones, some little pieces of lead shot. In the 1/8" screen we're catching a lot of artifacts as well. Of note, a beautiful faceted bead, very large bead, a couple days ago, as well as an ivory or bone die. Plural would be dice, so a gaming die. Just a minute ago I was down at the water screen and one of our students found a shark tooth. So we do know they were catching sharks, not necessarily here at the island, but maybe out in the bay or the ocean, and they were consuming those here at James Fort. We do find a fair amount of shark bone. I had the good fortune of coming across a Virginia Indian projectile point made of quartz crystal, so an arrowhead, at the water screens just the other day. It's been pretty amazing what we've been finding down at the screens during the last few weeks. Now in the next few weeks or so we'll get to the bottom of this feature. Right now we're just excavating through the trash layers. So when they made the call to abandon this building, maybe the building burned down or fell into disrepair, they then filled it in with trash. So we've been excavating through these trash layers for the last few weeks, but when we get to the bottom, perhaps we'll find an occupation layer. So in other words, a layer that shows us what kind of activities were taking place in the cellar. There might be artifacts down on the floor that were left in place when the cellar was abandoned, or if the building above it burned down, they may have simply not been able to retrieve their belongings before the building collapsed on whatever was in the basement. Oftentimes with these cellars we find steps leading into them. That has been the case in several cellars we've excavated in the 19 years we've been out here working on the fort. And just the other day we started to find evidence of possible steps leading into this cellar. They're kind of towards the middle of the cellar, which is a bit unusual. Typically the steps are at one of the sides of the cellar. So stay tuned. We'll be getting down to the bottom of this cellar in the next few months here. We'll have a lot more to tell you with the next dig update. So thanks for your interest, and we'll see you soon.